How's your relationship with time? Are you wired and tired, stressed and overwhelmed, busy and going nowhere? Or just want to scale your business? Welcome to Take Back Time with your host, Penny Zenker. Penny focuses on books, strategies, tools, and tips to help you work smarter and approach your time more strategically. As a result, you can have more energy, focus, and get more done in less time. Be more efficient and effective. Get ready to take back time.
Hello, and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zenker, and I'm your host. And today we are talking about scaling up your business because scaling is important. You want to grow, and you want to grow sustainably. And even better yet, as you're building this asset, why not prepare it for sale? So scale for sale. So today I have an expert with us that is the scale-up strategist. Lauren Cohen is an internationally licensed legal and business advisor who has developed a system to assess a business risks and gaps, paving the path to increase profits and a lucrative exit. For over 20 years, Lauren and her team at eCounsel at Inc.com and Scale Up Enterprises have advised U.S. and international businesses, providing concierge-level professional guidance in many areas critical to success, including professional business plans, financing, legal and compliance matters, insurance and licensing, and operational systems and security. Lauren is also a nonprofit specialist, both in terms of setup and ongoing operations and compliance. So we have a great guest for you today. So Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Penny. It's such a pleasure to be here.
I'm excited to talk about scaling to sales because I'm working on some programs right now to really help people look at their business in a different perspective and understand why companies are failing to scale. So before I get to that question for you, I just want to get some background about you. What made you want to become a lawyer and how did you get to where you are now?
Thank you. So my first recollection of wanting to be a lawyer was when I was 11 years old, reading the newspaper. My grandparents' apartment in Toronto, which is where I'm from originally. Wish I was this past weekend as we just went through a hurricane. We don't even know what it was because thank God it missed us. So I was in my grandparents' apartment. I was 11 years old and somehow reading the classifieds. I'm not sure why. And all these classifieds about like divorce. And I said, okay, I want to be a divorce lawyer. And I remember my grandmother, Allah Shalom, saying to me, why? I said, because I want to help people. I want to help people that are not treated well and make sure that the kids are protected. I don't even know where that came from.
Wow.
So I never ended up being a divorce lawyer, although I work with many. And I ended up becoming a corporate lawyer and doing a lot of mergers and acquisitions and transactional work. And in doing that, I also ended up working in the immigration field extensively here in the US. And I worked with so many different companies that were on the verge of scaling or bringing their businesses into the US and needed to scale in order to keep their visas, and businesses that were fledgling and trying to figure out why and not understanding what was missing in their formula from allowing them to scale. And going to these coaching programs, as you know, that are like $20,000, $30,000 a year, and getting all this coaching, but nobody asking about, well, what about your corporate structure? And what about your insurance? And what about all that stuff that can sustain you as you're continuing to do your sales and marketing and all that? So I realized that there was a missing piece. And I said, okay, these businesses need something to help them to put that foundation in place, to help them to look at these 7 risk areas that I cover and figure out where the gaps are and how to fill them. So I created this assessment, which I will be happy to share with your viewers at no charge.
Let's talk about that in a little bit.
I think you tried it, and it's a pretty cool assessment. It's fun. I should actually change the name to it's an eye-opening assessment, because the most common response I get when I ask people, what did you think of the assessment? It was eye-opening, like literally, because it makes you think about things that you didn't think about. Not all bad.
Let me interrupt you for a second there, because I think it's important, right? Business owners, they're wearing a lot of hats.
A lot of hats.
Right? So, something's going to fall through the cracks. And we also know, and I know this personally from growing my own technology business, is that we've got everything that works up to a point, and then we hit a plateau. And what got us here is not going to get us up here.
Correct.
And so it's not only the systems and structures that we have, but it's also the systems and support people that we're working with, right? Who we surround ourselves with. So it's really important for everyone who's listening to think about what got you here and celebrate it and be grateful for it, but also to really think about when you want to scale and take your business to the next level. Who do you need to surround yourself with? What kind of support systems and coaches and consultants and whatnot do you need? Because we don't get there on our own, right? The best way to get there is to compress time and to use people that have the expertise that can put you on the right path right away, save you countless hours and thousands and millions of dollars.
Yeah. But the challenge is that when we are entrepreneurs, we do try to do everything ourselves. For example, I would say 50% of my clients have at some point, and those that want to be my clients at some point have downloaded legal document off the internet. It has a certain name. Let's call it a consulting agreement, for example. And they say, oh, that's a consulting agreement. I can use that for my new independent consultant. Not so much. It's a big problem. The internet.
Let's talk about that. Now I want to hear, because that's interesting, because I think a lot of people do think that is that they can use a standard contract and that'll be fine. So why is that not fine? Let's explain.
Oh my gosh. There's so many reasons. When I do my talk, when I talk about the 7 secrets to scale up success and the 7 risk areas to avoid. And one of the secrets is do not download random internet resources. And it also is within the 7 risk areas to avoid. So there's just a plethora of reasons, not the least of which is that a document you find online that's called X may not actually be X, or may be X for a certain type of business, but not X for your business. Mm-hmm. Or it may just be that a consulting agreement really is not for the type of consulting that you're contemplating. Or it could be in a different state and have different laws, or a different country. It's not always just plug and play, okay?
And that's where we're like wired to think that we can just plug and play everything. So that's a really important point, is that it's completely out of context. And that means there's going to be risks involved with using that.
100%. And so many risks. As a matter of fact, in a lot of ways, you end up putting yourself more at risk by downloading a document in that way and using it or purporting to use it as your agreement of record than you do of not having anything. Because a napkin agreement or having a napkin agreement, that can be as binding or as any other agreement. But the difference being, you at least are recording those provisions yourselves, as opposed to taking something and making it yours.
Yeah.
I saw a document the other day as a precedent that I was looking at, and it was for a government entity. So the government entity would not have worked for my client. It was just a disaster because it had all of these provisions about that it would meet certain criteria and qualify with the school system. It was just completely crazy. It's a big ongoing problem. So that's just one of the many challenges that you have by not working with an attorney.
So that's really important for people. So let me ask you a question just on the contractual basis, right? Because people are selling products online, and do they need to consult a lawyer to have proper agreements in that context as well? And how, this is a loaded question, right? So do they need that? And how can they find that type of legal service without people think that lawyers are really expensive, right? Yeah. And so how can I afford to have a standard common person work with me legally that I can't afford to hire and only have a certain amount to pay, let's say, per month? How could that work for me as an entrepreneur?
So there's a couple of answers to that. So the first one is not all lawyers are super expensive. And yes, if you're selling products online, absolutely. Not only are there contractual requirements for the products and services that you're selling online, but you need to have your website reviewed in a major way. There are website provisions, terms of service, ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act compliance, GDPR compliance. If you have anybody looking at your website in Europe, there's compliance up the wazoo that people are not complying with. And you know what's happening, Penny? Is that X down the street that is jealous of you, or I have a small hotelier down here in Florida. She has 5 very small, like almost Airbnb, but they're her own brand hotels. And one of her colleagues was recently fined $12,000. $12,000 because her website did not comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. That's a lot of money for a very small business. Okay.
Right. And for what would seem like a small technicality, right?
But it's not. And the challenge is that this is the federal government. So the federal government has a whistleblower law that encourages people to report violations because they get 30% of whatever the federal government recovers.
What?
Yeah. So this is a big deal. And it's
I need to
not
get
going
a new
away.
job and be a whistleblower. That sounds pretty good.
Exactly. You walk around. Exactly. Or if you just happen to have a beef or you're a former employee, I mean, this is a big issue that's not going away. And as our websites continue to be our main calling card, it continues to be a growing problem. And the challenge is that there aren't many lawyers that offer kind of a package solution. So I actually have a colleague that I work with, my affiliate, who has packages of templated documents. And I love these packages, and I would be happy to share them with any of your viewers that want to speak with me. The beauty of that is if you're working with myself on that, we can make sure that they meet what your needs are. Because you don't want to just pick something and think that it meets your needs. You want to make sure that you're working with somebody that has your back.
That's also the key. You said somebody that's got your back. And if you just use somebody like once, right, it's not the same as having like a real legal partner, which I think most entrepreneurs, if not all, really need to have one. They just don't really know, or they don't feel like they have the funds to do so. So that's a great offering.
So that's part of why I developed what I did, because there is a demand for something that goes beyond some of the multi-level services that you have to kind of access a lawyer and get a will, let's say, and having a law firm on call, which most entrepreneurs don't need and can't afford and or don't want to afford, or bringing somebody in-house to work in your firm. What most entrepreneurs need is that in-house lawyer without the law firm price that's available on speed dial to be there for the what ifs and oh my gods that do happen. I mean, look, we've just gone through 6 days of complete chaos down here in South Florida because of a hurricane that we didn't know whether it was coming, when it was coming, where. It's been crazy. So businesses are put in a state of disarray, and it's not just insurance that you need to have in place. And if you don't have the insurance in place and you're a physical business, or if your business was interrupted because of the hurricane, you've got no coverage for that.
And that can put a lot of businesses out of business.
Well, it does. Hurricanes do. And if the reality is that once you lose power, you can, in essence, be put out of business. And it's a big challenge. So why not work with somebody like myself that's going to look at these 7 areas like an in-house lawyer does to make sure, and the 7 areas, we can talk about them, but to make sure that you're covered in all 7 of these areas, because we want to develop a success plan so that you can scale and grow by ensuring that these 7 areas are covered as you move forward with your business, and that you're protected throughout the process, because you don't want to have your business interrupted and not have the means to respond to that, or the backup plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So are these 7 areas, are they the reason why companies fail to scale, in your opinion?
There are so many reasons, but these 7 areas, let me just list them real quick.
Yeah, let's talk about them.
Sure. So there's funding and capitalization, business planning, which is
cash flow, right, is the number one thing that sets businesses out of business.
Business planning, which includes mission, vision, and exit, because I am so strong a proponent of begin with the end in mind and have an exit strategy. We saw and heard from Michael Gerber. He's all about having the exit not at day 500, but at day 50 or day 500, right? Branding and marketing, legal and compliance, financial and taxes. And you'll notice that these are all 2s. So it's really 14, but I condensed it into 7 because 7 is the number. 2.
Absolutely.
So financial and taxes, operations and security, which is your backup and your backup systems, and insurance and licensing. Now, I am not an expert in 5 of these 7 areas at all, okay? There's only 2 areas that I'm an expert in. One is legal and compliance, although I'm not an expert in every part of it, but I know who to bring in when I'm not. Mm-hmm. And the other is business planning, because I've been writing business plans for 15 years. But I know who to go to, when it comes to systems, when it comes to operations. I know who to go to when it comes to financial and taxes. That is not me, and I don't think that's right. I'm not going to be the person to be preparing the books, looking at your financials, developing a financial plan for you, working on your taxes. I'm not going to be the one that's going to do your branding and marketing, but I'm going to be the one that's going to say you're missing something here.
Mm-hmm.
You may be on a trademark, huge potential boon for your business, but you're not even looking at that opportunity because you don't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I mean, they're so caught up in their business, and this gives them the ability to step back and look across all different areas of their business. What I really like about that is that very often you'll go and you'll talk to somebody who's in branding and marketing, and they're biased. They're looking to sell their services. And so I like that you don't cover those areas. You cover one or two, but that you don't cover all of them, because you're going to be able to be unbiased in your review of my business, because you're not looking to sell me something in that space, right? So people get kind of freaked out sometimes when they're like, well, everybody's trying to sell me something. So that's where I see huge value in this assessment, is you're just getting ability to step back and to see things from a broader perspective.
Distractions are the enemy of productivity. Go to distractionquiz.com and find out your distraction profile. Are you a time zombie or a hamster? Take this free distraction quiz today to rate your ability to focus on what keeps you from being a wizard. Go to distractionquiz.com.
So I love these 7 areas because they're things that you don't think of on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and sometimes not even a monthly basis. So you may not be really looking at your cash flow and your profitability and how you're making sure that you have enough cash flow to cover future investments, to cover a certain number of, like, for contingency. So cash flow is needed for some reason. Your business operations stop, like because of a hurricane or because of some other type of business thing, is you need to be thinking of having cash flow in reserve. So let's talk about, is this assessment something that, like, is it an online thing that I can take? So how would people get this assessment?
So I'm going to give you the coupon code to share with your viewers. And yes, it's online. I created it. It's my baby. And then once they take the assessment, they can opt for a strategy session or just a mini session with me. The strategy session would give us a chance to really go through the results in the assessment and figure out what the gaps are and how to fill them. And the beautiful thing is that I do have strategic partners in most of these areas that can fill most of your gaps. Not all and not everywhere, but it really depends on what you need. And working with somebody like myself to make sure that you implement properly, because our goal is, I have a 3-step process, Penny. Assess, diagnose, deliver. So in the assessment phase, that's the assessment itself. We have quizzes, as you know, you've tried one of my quizzes. So we have quizzes and then an assessment that assess the gaps. Diagnose is the element of actually preparing a success plan to fill the gaps. Diagnose the solutions to fill those gaps with the success plan that I've created. That's phase 2. Phase 3 is delivery. So that's where you deliver on the elements identified in the success plan as the ways to fill the gaps. In between those 2 steps, diagnose and deliver, is where hopefully I'm going to come in as an outsourced legal advisor / coordinator of all things, all these 7 elements, to create an implementation strategy with you as the client and figure out what the priorities are and how to make sure that the gaps are filled with those priorities as quickly as possible, and to create a strategic plan to move forward. And I work with you usually on a 6 to 18 month basis on the implementation of that. So I become like your outsourced in-house person.
Right. That's awesome. So that's the 3-step plan that you work with people at. And I want to encourage people that, because you talked about getting the right contracts and having them be applicable to your business and really assessing those risks. I think that even if people aren't ready to work with somebody for 12 to 18 months type of thing, is that just getting some experience in identifying where the gaps are, the risks, is a great first start, right? Is you got to start somewhere. And that's a great place for people to start. I'm big into assessments as well. You know, I do a distraction assessment. I help people to find out where they are, if they're a squirrel or a time zombie or a wizard. I think the reason that these assessments are so important is because they give us a heightened awareness about where we really are now. So a lot of times we know, but we don't really own it. And the assessment sometimes helps us to own it and put a number to it and really, like, get clarity how bad or what level the risk is. So what would you say in your experience, how has that served people that you're working with to create this heightened level of awareness?
It kind of goes both ways. Some people are like, they get the heightened level of awareness and they stick their head back in the sand. And others are like, okay, it's time to take action. I would say the latter is less common, but what happens is a few months later, when they're ready to actually move their business forward, that's when they'll say, okay, now I'm ready. They may not be ready when they take the assessment. That's when they do that eye-opening exercise.
Right.
Then a few months down the road, when they need to scale or bring in a joint venture partner or potentially an investor or pass due diligence or consider an exit, that's when they start realizing, okay, now I got to take action. So,
and isn't it too late sometimes, or not too late, but like, what's the cost for a company when they wait too long?
Huge. I mean, it can be huge, especially if you create legal problems for yourself. But that's really the difference between hiring a lawyer as an insurance policy or hiring a lawyer to put out the fire. And most people, unfortunately, wait till the fire happens so that they are then putting out the fire. Unlike us here in South Florida, most of us boarded up our homes. Or me, I have impact windows. I spent that. I put that insurance. Granted, the hurricane didn't come our way, but we still got ready. Now, the people that didn't get ready, they're probably like, haha, but who knew? You have to prepare. If you fail to plan, like Benjamin Franklin said, you plan to fail. And we know that because we're strategists. And these business owners are just, even if it doesn't happen today, it's going to happen. You're going to get that letter in the mail, or you're going to get that lawsuit at your door, or you're going to get that complaint, or you're going to get that stuff that you can't stick your head in the sand anymore. You've got to come out of the ether and realize that this is real. And if you want to run your business as a business, you've got to stop looking at it as a hobby. You don't want to expose your family as well. That's a whole other dimension of risk that you need to avoid. And this is why it's so important to work with professionals.
Absolutely. You know, what I was just thinking about is when you do get yourself into and you're hiring somebody to be more the firefighter, the emotional stress that you have at a time like that. Because I was thinking about productivity, right? This show really is partially about how to be more productive. And I believe that when you have the right resources supporting your business, then that enables you to be more productive, to take that mind share, give it to someone else. Like if you're worried about what might come up or what risks there are in your business, give that over to somebody else. But I was just thinking of when something goes wrong, right? Our productivity goes like down to zero because we've got not only this problem to deal with, but we've got all the stress that's associated with it, which often people don't think about, and how that can also create problems with our health as well.
For sure. So much.
So anyway, we're coming to the end.
Business health. Sorry.
Our
physical health, our personal health, and our business's health.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what's a productivity tip that you would give, since also the show is about general time management, productivity, how to compress time? What's something that you do that makes you more productive in your day-to-day?
I definitely do not try to do everything myself. I stay in my lane. There are times when I am a typical entrepreneur and try to do too many things that are not in my wheelhouse. But my 4 favorite words are definitely stay in your lane.
Okay.
And I think that outsourcing and delegating and bringing in professionals and realizing that there's no I in team is essential to having a productive, scalable, and ultimately a saleable business. So it's all interconnected. Productivity and scalability are so definitely interconnected.
Absolutely.
You can't really be productive without covering all of these bases. And you definitely cannot have a scalable business unless you've improved your productivity and efficacy throughout the process. So I think that that would be the most important thing. Rely on professionals. Don't be afraid to talk to us just because you're afraid of what the price ticket might be, because maybe it won't be as bad as you think. Some of us are available to you. We're not just here to take your money. We're here to actually help you because it helps us and enhances our business. So maybe there's a way to create affiliate relationships, joint venture relationships, cross-marketing relationships. Use and work with people that are collaborative so that you can actually build something together that's for the ultimate good of the client and for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here and
My
sharing
pleasure.
your 7 areas of risk. Can you just go through those one more time, and then I'll
absolutely
give us where to reach it.
Absolutely. So and again, once you take the assessment, I have a really cool online brochure. I can share that with you as well, Penny. It's pretty cool and it identifies a lot of this. I have also a quick brochure that's fun and easy, but the 7 areas are funding and capitalization, cash flow. How well are you funded? Do you have enough capital? Are you bootstrapped? Business planning, including mission, vision, and exit. You must begin with the end in mind. We build your GPS, but we can't build your GPS without a destination, right?
Yeah.
You have to know where you're going. Branding and marketing, legal and compliance, operations and systems and security, backup, financial and taxes, and insurance and licensing. You really can't operate a business without at least some element of all 7 of these, and in many cases, more elements of most of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Where can they reach you? What's a website that they can go find this assessment?
Sure. So the easiest way to reach me is showmethemoneyquiz.com, which is a fun and easy quiz. We also have scaleupcheckup.com. That's the main website, scaleupcheckup.com. That's the website. And if you go /money, you can also access the quiz. And again, I'll share the assessment with you, which is also on the website, and I'll share the coupon code. I am very, very prominent, or it's not the right word, but I'm very prevalent on LinkedIn, Lauren Cohen, and I have a lot of connections. So if I can help with any of the connections you're looking for, any of your viewers, I'd be happy to. And also on Facebook and all social media, Scale Up Checkup. I'm also an immigration attorney, so I have a big profile there, and I've written 2 books. So there's a lot of ways to find me. The problem is that when you put Lauren Cohen, you get the actress all the time. It's not a problem.
Right. Can you give us, some of our listeners, they're going to be writing down the coupon code right now. So can you give us that coupon code now, or are we going to put it?
It's not going to help because I have to give you the actual link, but here, let me give it to you.
Okay, so that's okay. Then we'll just include that in the show notes so that people know if you're listening to this, you want to check in on the blog that'll have it in the show notes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
And if you go on to my website and you find it and you can't access it, just let us know. And I'll be happy to share that with you.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Lauren. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Penny. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you all for being here, because you are the bedrock of this show. And at the end of the day, it's about taking a step back and looking at your business with fresh eyes and looking at the big picture. Not just 2 of the 7 components, but all 7 components, and planning and thinking about what you're doing going forward so that you're taking a look that you've got that balance included in each area. And one thing that you heard today that's so important to scaling your business, running your business efficiently and effectively, and growing and building a powerful team inside and outside is stay in your lane, right? Stay in your lane. Hire other people who are either your employees who are doing the jobs that need to be done, that have the expertise, or outsource various different pieces of whatever it is, whether it's marketing or use systems that support and so forth. Stay in your lane and let others support you in doing what they do best. So then everybody wins. It's a win-win-win situation. So thank you all for being here. My name is Penny Zanker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening. Today's topic is another opportunity for you to put the knowledge you learned into practice. Tune in again next week for more strategies that will help you have more energy and focus to get more done in less time, so you can continue to take back time.